Hello everyone, welcome for this tutorial. So today we'll have a look on a workflow with Realflow and Blender with the new import Alembic system. So we can make a fluid simulation in Realflow, and we will have this kind of result in the end. So first I will have to explain why I do my simulation in Realflow. We have a nice fluid simulation in Blender, so why do it in Realflow? So the reason is simple, is that Blender has really nice features for this, but it's not completely finished for me to have something really professional for that. And the first reason, the main reason for me, and I call for developers to make this if possible, because I know it will be a lot of work, but if I make a simulation here and quick effect and quick fluid here, for example, and so after I bake it here, and I had just before a force field with vortex here, for example, inside. So it will be here, you see, and I increase the strength of it and the noise and everything, as it will work with particle system. But you will see that when I do the bake here, the baking, so I have no effect at all, because for the moment every force field objects, they don't have effects on fluid simulation in Blender. So it's a little limited for doing some very good motion graphics as you can do in Realflow. So we will do the simulation in Realflow and import it in Blender to have something nice to render. Let's go for that. First we will open Realflow, and wow, this is a simulation when it's done. But before, we will start from scratch. So file, a new project, okay, and yeah, okay, I will take new here, an empty project, and I will go in my folder here to save it in desktop, okay, and I will make a fluid tuto 2, let's say, and I will do a new file, fluid tuto 2. Let's go for that, and I select this file. Okay, I call it fluid anyway, and I create a new project. So the first goal will be to make a kind of path that simulation will follow. So for this I will use daemon. So this is a daemon, this is all the tools that you can use to make special effects for the simulation. And here you have this spline. So if I put this here, my simulation will follow this spline, and I can do edit into the here. So you see I can do editing on the spline as well, but it will be a little tricky to make just a little circle with this, so I will use something different. So I will go out of this edit mode, I will delete with delete button, and go to create a text spline. I will choose O, and in a big scale here, and say OK. So the scale has to be 1, not 0, 1, and say OK. And what Realflow does, it gave me actually 2 splines that I can use. I will delete the little one, and I will use only that one. So in Realflow, with numpad, with 1 you will be in top view, with 2 you will be in front view, 3 in side view, and 4 you will be in 3D view, normal view, but in perspective mode. So what I want is to make this spline, so horizontally. So I will go in side view on 3 and select the rotation menu and do rotation to make it good. Okay, so now I have my spline well positioned. So now I will add something to create particles on it. So I will create a diverso particle. Why I create diverso and not standard? Because diverso use the GPU, and as I have two GeForce graphic cards in my computer, I will use this. So I will use a square. Okay. And as you can see now, if I start to simulate here, I will have some particles go down. So here in the perpendicular axis of the plane. To reset the simulation, I do yes, like this, reset. And me, I would like to put it inside with a good direction. So what I will do, I will go in top view, okay, and move it with this tool to the side like this, and in front view, no, inside view, I will use this like that, okay, and make a little rotation on it to put a good direction. And so now if I put a good view, so you can see that it's inside. And now I will just make a little scale on the z-axis like so, and after I launch my simulation again, and you can see that my simulation is a little influenced by the spline, but not enough. And for that we'll have to increase the strength of the simulation for this spline, and the values that I will put, so I made a little experiment on that. So let's take the spline here and go down. You will find force, and forced vortex strength, so it will put a little rotation inside, so I put 1.1. Here axial I put 1.4, let's say, and this one has to be increased as well. I put it as 6, and now you will see the result. So I do reset, okay, and simulate again, and so now you can see that it follows better the spline as well, but you can see that it goes out still because of the velocity of the particles. And what I can do for that is just to put another daemon that we will put now. It's a drag force, so a little turtle to say it will slow down the simulation, okay. And this little turtle into the options here, you can find here the drag force, and I will put 0.2 here to slow down everything. And normally when I simulate again, I have something better. So everything is following. It seems good for me, but as you can see, it's a little boring. There is no flow here, liquids or little drops that goes out, so nothing very interesting there. Maybe we can do better. Yeah, we can do better. And to make it better, we will just add a noise field that will be in the center here, noise field, and as its name tells, it makes some noise. So let's simulate again, and now we will have a result more interesting with more curly waves on it, so it will be more interesting to for our final simulation. Let's increase a little the frames, the length of the simulation, so I double it, I put to 400 and simulate again to continue, and now I see that it joins the first, and after it adds some particle that, so I will not want this. I want something that stop emit particle here, let's say at this frame. So I go to the emitter here, and the emitter has a speed value, this speed value that we will animate. So I will put a key on it on 2, okay, it will be good, and I will just go 3 frames or 2 frames later and go to 0 and stop the speed with a new key. So now if I Control A to reset and A to simulate again, so you will see that starting this frame it will stop if you want to come. Okay, so this frame it will stop, and after it continues, and the simulation will continue and continue and continue, and if you let it continue until infinite values, it can make some nice effects, and you can even play with the noise, animate the noise, animate a lot of things on it. It's just an example of a simulation. I don't go too far with these options. So now everything is ready. We just have to increase a lot the domain resolution. For example, by default it's 1. I will increase just 20 just to show you how it works with 20. So Control A to reset, A to simulate again, and you will see that it will be already a lot better for our simulation. We start to have little drops in the beginning here, so it will be far more realistic in the end for fluid simulation. And the maximum, let's say the good value that we will use will be 50. So let's put it in 50. I do the simulation. It will take a little time, so I do a little pause on recording and go back to see you again. Let's go. Okay, good. We did our simulation, so now you can play with here the frames and to look how beautiful is the simulation. It will be very good if we have this in Blender, huh? But for now we will have to create a mesh, because what we will import into our Blender file will be Alembic mesh, and for that we have a meshing system that goes around the particles and makes a mesh around the particles to build drops and liquid around it. So what we use for that is this mesh here section, and you can just create a particle mesh. So I go maybe here at this frame to have a nice looking of it, and let's go to particle meshing. So I have a particle mesh and nothing's happened. Oh, that's weird. But you can see with this button you can simulate the meshing around the particles, and you can see the first options give something not really beautiful, so I will select just this and put this with here a solid material and maybe something smooth. Whoopla. Let's go there. Okay, and you can see it gives something okay usable, but it's a little like not really beautiful and not really liquid. It's more like maybe if you did use metaballs in Blender, you know what I'm talking about. So it's something that doesn't really looks like liquid. So let's go further in the options of this meshing, and we will make something better. And for that we will enter the particle mesh options, and you will see different things. So first I will decrease here the polygon size and put it at 0.025. okay, and I click on this again, and you can see that my meshing will be already better with better resolution, but it's still with a like spheres like this that really doesn't look like really good, really like liquids. So let's go further, and let's go to mesh filters. mesh filters, we will put yes here, and we will enable thinning with 0.4. Thinning that makes the distance between the particles and the mesh less, so it looks better for me. I prefer it. Okay, as you can see, so for me it looks far better than before, and we will increase relaxation at 8, so a big relax. Yeah, we are relaxed here, no problem. And here we put it 0 for steps because it will be useless, and mesh again. Okay, so it starts to be already better. For me it looks more like liquids already. And maybe we can use two little volume filter to, in this section you just go to plus and add a smooth filter and change the meshing again, and now it looks far better than before, and it looks more liquid now. And we will use this setting for all the simulation. So as you can see, if I move my frames here, I lose my meshing. So what I have to do is simulate again to make it, but as I did already simulate the particles, I will not do it again, and in the simulate options I go there and I remove fluid dynamics. Like this, I will not have to recompute again for this. And now I will simulate again, and now Realflow will compute only the meshing for this simulation. And so I see you when it's finished. Okay, so we did finish simulation, and now we can see the meshing is done for all the simulation and all the frames are done. So by default, what it does is, when you select this, you see in the export section, you can see there is an export data and mesh sequence, and this has to be yes, but by default it's there, so normally you don't have to take care about it. But what it does a sequence here in the fluid. So this is the folder that I did save this file into it, and here we have into meshes, so our abc.alembic files that we will use in Blender now. So let's go to Blender and import this simulation. So in Blender, let's go in cycles and take a GPU and 1% here. Okay, so I remove this cube, I remove this lamp, I stay with my camera, and with Shift C, and I will here put the displaying options. So with Shift C, that you can see here, I put my cursor into the middle of the scene, and I will go to File, Import Alembic, and I go to my desktop and here to Fluid and Meshes, and now I have everything here that you can see here. It's every frames of my simulation, and normally it will stop in way in 400. So I select the first, then A 2 times, and I will select everything. I tell Blender that it's a sequence, and I import Alembic. Nothing's happened, I have a kind of, but if I move here, you can see my simulation. Why? It's nice this. So what we will do with that? First we need to smooth the mesh of this simulation, and because by default it's not smooth. So and you can see that if I try it, it doesn't work. So it takes for me a while. I did some researches, and actually it's pretty simple. It's because here it's an empty mesh. When you go in the value in the edit mode here with tab, you can see that it's an empty mesh, but it's this modifier that is a mesh sequence that the import Alembic does makes this mesh. So Blender cannot understand that a mesh with no faces can have a smoothing on faces, so it does nothing. It does nothing. So what I do, I go to edit mode, I Shift A, I add a cube or anything else. Anyway, it will not appear, and I put smooth, and now we have a nice smooth shading. Oh, that's good. And we will add now a spline. We will scale it. We will go into edit mode and select these two here, these two vertices, extrude on the z-axis, select these two vertices again and Ctrl B to make a kind of cyclo, and let it smooth for that one too, and maybe X on the X axis, S on the X axis. And now I go in front view, I select my mesh here, with period I select it and I go on this view, and we will do a Ctrl Alt 0 to have the same view with the camera view. Okay, perfect. And now we just have to play with the rotation of the mesh. So maybe just a little like this, and just a little like that. Whoopla. Not that bad. So here, okay, and maybe go into normal here, that I can do a kind of rotation like this. Okay, yeah, it's not that bad. What I have here, it's something like this. Okay, it will make my simulation like this, like a nice motion on it. Okay, very good. So what we will have to do now is just set simple lighting and materials. So what I will use something with easy HDRI. If you don't know this add-on, use it. It's really easy to use. You just select the folder where you have all your Pond HDR for environment lighting, and you just accept it and create world node. And after, you just have to select here. So very simple to use, very easy. I really like this add-on, so don't hesitate to have a look on it. What I will use, maybe that one. Okay, not that bad. Not that bad too. Yeah, let's say the first is maybe the best, huh? Okay, so we have this nice looking, so we just had now material on our mesh. So we select our mesh here, we go to the material here and do a new material, make a new material. We will just add a principled with a nice reddish color, or the color that you want actually, yeah. And just add a lot of specular on it. Okay, and now we have a nice paint looking that goes into the air. That is nice. And what we will do again is to set maybe just a little focus length. So I will just increase the distance, and to see what I do, I just make this button limits, so activate. So now I can increase the distance and see what I do. So I will make it here like this. It will be on this part of the mesh that I will see, and I will increase the size. And now if I go to Shift C again, I can see the effect on it. So that's it. This is our simulation. After you just have to hit render GPU compute and verify your settings here. But usually with default settings, and maybe increase this if you have a GPU, and maybe active denoising too. I did it, and it saves a lot of time on renderings. So don't hesitate to play around with settings and to make nice fluid simulations in Blender with Realflow too. Just a little limit that Blender has it's that you cannot have motion blur on it. If I activate my motion blur here, nothing's happened. Here Shift Z, or if I hit render 2, it will be the same. I don't have any motion blur on it. It's because for now the import Alembic doesn't import any velocity settings, velocity values on the mesh. So it will be good if developers have a look on it and maybe make a patch or something like this for the future versions. That would be really great if we can have this. So thank you for watching this video, and don't hesitate with play around with everything. Okay, bye bye.